Okay. So if you don't know what was driving your use, you need to. There's an old saying, in recovery, you can't fight what you don't understand. So one way to find out is two incomplete sentences. So there's no right or wrong answer for these. So I would suggest, if you're not quite clear what your triggers are and what your contributing factors are, to do this. Write it down and spend some time with it. I usually drink when, examples I hear, after 4 o'clock. There's a reason the person's not drinking at 3:59. And there's a reason they start at 4. I drink heavier on the weekends. Well, what's different about the weekends? I usually drink when I'm around Tom, Dick, and Harry. And those guys got me. And whenever I'm around them, it's off to the races. I drink when I'm lonely, tired, bored, angry, lonely, depressed. And this will shine a light on the context and the situation. What it gives you is, and again, there's no right or wrong answer. I've heard people say, I drink when I'm anxious. And what it gives me is lower anxiety. And short term, it will. It's a relaxant, it's a depressant. Long term, it's going to fry my central nervous system, and I will be a nervous wreck. And now I'm going to be in big trouble, especially if this is the only tool I have in my bucket to take care of the anxiety. It's going to be my go-to, even worse. So let me give you a working definition of addiction. An attempt to meet legitimate needs through unhealthy methods. So, an example, a kid grows up in a horrific house, the worst abuse you can imagine. Age 15 or 16, first buzz on. It all goes away for 6 hours. No memories, no emotions, no flashbacks. Awesome. We couldn't fault that kid for really needing some help with his past, because he doesn't know what to do with it. Adults don't know what to do with that stuff, let alone a kid. And I bet this really did take it away for 6 hours. And then he comes to, and 6 hours, there it is again, but he found something. He found relief, because he doesn't know what to do with all of that, and the memories and the emotions. And so this would be, for that example, when the flashbacks come, when the memories come, when I feel ashamed, when I'm so angry at why people treated me that way. And what this does for me is it takes it all away. It makes the anger go away. It slows my brain down so it's not all tied up in that. And it gives me a few hours of relief. So, legitimate need, yeah. He needs help with his past. And the problem is, it probably works. If your drug of choice or alcohol gave you nothing, ever, you'd probably be on to the next thing. You know, well, that didn't work. What's next? But that's the hook of the addiction. It does give you something. And that payoff is what brings you back to it. The other thing that's at play is the pleasure center in the brain. And they did an experiment with a rat, and of course you and I are not rats, but we have anatomical similarities, and one of them is the pleasure center. So they set up this room, and they put a bowl of food in the corner, and on this wall over here, about 3 inches up, they had a lever. And if he happened to push that, it would give him a shot of cocaine in his pleasure center. They had an electrode placed in there. So they released the rat into the room. First thing he smelled was the food, went right over and had a good meal. And after he was all satisfied, he went exploring. And he came over on this thing sticking out of the wall, and he inadvertently got on his back legs and hit it. And he pressed it till he starved to death, because the amount of pleasure that it was delivering eclipsed the food by a mile. And that's kind of what happens. You and I are going along everyday life, and we experiment with X. Whether it's a cocktail or a joint or something more serious, and the pleasure center says, "Oh, that got my attention. That felt kind of euphoric." And if I do that again, there it is again.